Have you ever received an invitation to a party and your first thought was about finding a good reason not to go? Not because you're sad or anxious, but simply because you'd honestly prefer spending time by yourself? If this sounds like you, you're not alone in wanting to be alone. And recent psychological research shows that society has misunderstood people like you for a very long time. Let's talk about something important right from the start. Being lonely and being alone are two completely different things. Loneliness is painful. It hurts deep inside. But choosing to be alone, that might actually be one of your greatest strengths, a superpower that most people don't understand or appreciate. For many years, psychologists made a huge mistake. They put everyone who liked spending time alone into one big group and assumed something was wrong with them. They used words like introverts, loners, or even worse, antisocial. That last word especially made it seem like enjoying your own company meant you had serious problems or were somehow dangerous. It was as if preferring solitude meant you were one bad day away from becoming some kind of villain. The entire mental health community treated solitude preference as a red flag, something that needed to be fixed or corrected through therapy or social intervention. But then something really interesting happened in psychological research. In 2016, researchers at the University of Buffalo decided to ask a question that nobody had really asked before. What if some people simply prefer being alone? Not because they're afraid of other people, not because something traumatic happened to them, not because they lack social skills, but because spending time alone actually makes them happy and helps them feel their best. This was a revolutionary question because it challenged decades of assumptions in psychology. These researchers gave this preference a new name: unsociability. This is very different from being antisocial, which means actively disliking or being hostile toward other people. When someone is antisocial, they have negative feelings toward others and might even want to harm them. It's also different from being avoidant, which is when you stay away from people because you're scared of rejection, judgment, or criticism. That's fear-based behavior. Unsociability simply means you have a calm, confident preference for your own company. There's no fear, no hostility, no anxiety, just a genuine preference. When the researchers studied people who fit this description, they discovered something surprising. These people weren't struggling or unhappy. In fact, they were doing really well in life. Many of them were thriving in ways that contradicted everything psychology had taught about human social needs. They had fulfilling lives, successful careers, and were mentally healthy. This was a plot twist that nobody in the research community expected. What's actually happening inside the brain of someone who genuinely enjoys being alone? The science is fascinating and helps explain why these people are wired differently. First, let's talk about dopamine. Dopamine is a chemical in your brain that makes you feel good and rewarded. It's the same chemical that gets released when you eat delicious food, achieve a goal, or experience something pleasurable. For extroverts, people who love being around others, social interaction gives them a huge burst of dopamine. The laughter, the conversations, the energy of being with people, the buzz of a crowded room. All of this creates a powerful positive feeling in their brains. They need that social stimulation to feel energized and alive. But people who prefer solitude have a dopamine system that works differently. Their system is more sensitive. They reach their optimal level of good feelings much faster and with less stimulation. Think about it like spice tolerance when eating food. An extrovert might need to eat a whole hot pepper to feel satisfied and get that rush. But someone who loves solitude, just a tiny pinch of spice is enough to make them feel perfectly content. Their system doesn't need massive amounts of stimulation to reach the sweet spot of feeling good. Too much social interaction for them is like too much spice. It becomes overwhelming and uncomfortable rather than enjoyable. But there's another fascinating difference in the brain. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for deep thinking, self-reflection, and solving complex problems. It's also involved in planning, decision-making, and understanding yourself at a deeper level. In people who enjoy being alone, this area shows much more activity during solo time. They're not just sitting around doing nothing or feeling bored when they're alone. Their brains are actually very busy, working at full capacity. They're thinking deeply, creating new ideas, processing their experiences, working through problems, planning their futures, and engaging in meaningful self-reflection. It's like their brain is throwing a whole party of mental activity, and it's all happening in the quiet space of solitude. Here's something that might surprise you. Studies on creativity consistently show that breakthrough ideas and innovations rarely happen during group brainstorming sessions or in busy, crowded places like coffee shops. Instead, the best ideas usually come when people are alone. They come in the shower, during solo walks in nature, or late at night when everyone else is asleep and the world is quiet. There's something about solitude that allows the brain to make connections it can't make when it's busy processing social information and external stimulation. Think about some of the greatest minds in history. Albert Einstein did his most important work alone, spending hours in quiet contemplation, working through complex physics problems in his mind. Isaac Newton made his biggest discoveries during time spent by himself, particularly during the plague when he isolated in the countryside. The famous writer Virginia Woolf wrote an entire essay about this need for solitude. She called it a room of one's own, arguing that creative work requires both physical space and mental space away from others. Another celebrated author, Maya Angelou, used to rent a hotel room just to have a quiet place to write, even though she had a perfectly good house with a home office. She needed that complete separation, that guaranteed solitude where nobody could interrupt her creative process. These weren't coincidences. These brilliant people understood that solitude was essential for their best work, their clearest thinking, and their most important contributions to the world. Now, before you decide that this describes you perfectly, we need to pause and consider something crucial. There's a big difference between choosing solitude and hiding in it. This distinction is absolutely critical to understand because it's the difference between healthy unsociability and something that might need attention or healing. Here's the uncomfortable but important truth. Some people aren't truly embracing solitude. Instead, they're using it as protection, like armor or a shield to avoid rejection, judgment, or the scary vulnerability that comes with really connecting with other people. They've been hurt before, or they're afraid of being hurt, so they tell themselves they prefer being alone when really they're just protecting themselves from potential pain. This is where you need to be honest with yourself, and that honesty can be difficult, but it's necessary. The famous psychologist Abraham Maslow explained it well. He said that healthy solitude comes from a place of having plenty, not from lacking something. In other words, you genuinely enjoy being alone because you've had meaningful connections with people in your life, and you know you can have them again whenever you want. You have the social skills, you have friends you could call, you have the ability to connect. You're not running away from people because you can't handle relationships. You're running toward yourself, toward personal growth, peace, and self-discovery. You're choosing solitude from a position of strength, not weakness. The real question isn't just do you like being alone. The deeper question is why do you like being alone? This why matters more than anything else. If your answer includes words like recharge, create, think, or process, you're probably in that healthy unsociability zone. You're using solitude to restore your energy, to do creative work, to think deeply about important questions, or to process your experiences and emotions. These are all healthy, productive reasons for seeking alone time. But if your answer includes words like safer, easier, or less painful, that might be pointing to something different. If you prefer being alone because it's safer than risking rejection, easier than navigating complex social dynamics, or less painful than potential disappointment, then you might be using solitude as avoidance rather than as a genuine preference. Not wrong, not broken, but perhaps something worth exploring and understanding better, maybe with someone you trust, or even with a therapist who can help you work through those fears. People who genuinely thrive in solitude have figured out something really important that many others are still learning. They understand that being alone isn't the same as being incomplete. Think about how we usually talk about romantic relationships in our culture. We say things like my other half, my better half, or you complete me. That famous line from Jerry Maguire has shaped how millions of people think about love and relationships. We've created this whole story that humans are like broken puzzle pieces desperately searching for the matching piece that will make us whole. The underlying message is that you're somehow insufficient on your own, that you need another person to become complete. But people who enjoy solitude have looked at this story and thought, actually, I'm already a complete puzzle. I don't need another piece to be whole. I'm a full set already. Thank you very much. And here's what makes this really interesting. This isn't arrogance or selfishness. It's self-awareness and self-acceptance. It's understanding that while relationships can add to your life, they don't complete it because you were never incomplete to begin with. Research from Dr. Bella DePaulo at the University of California, Santa Barbara, discovered something unexpected that challenges our assumptions about relationships. Single people who embrace solitude often have stronger and healthier connections with friends, family, and their community compared to people in romantic relationships. Why? Because they're not trying to get all their emotional needs met by just one person. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're not desperately clinging to others out of fear of being alone. They're making conscious choices about their relationships. They maintain diverse connections with different people who fulfill different roles in their lives. These people understand something crucial. The quality of your alone time directly affects the quality of your social time. When you're recharged, centered, and clear-headed from spending time alone, you actually show up as a better person in your relationships. You're not emotionally drained or running on empty. You're not resentful or irritable because you haven't had time to yourself. You're not looking for someone else to fill an emptiness inside you or fix your problems. Instead, you're bringing your complete, best self to your interactions because you've taken care of yourself first. You've filled your own cup, so now you have something to pour into your relationships with others. There's real power in that approach. It makes your relationships healthier, more balanced, and more authentic. Here's something that might blow your mind. In Japan, they have a special word for alone time, hitori. And it's not just accepted in their culture, it's actually celebrated and encouraged as a normal, healthy part of life. In Japan, there are restaurants with special seating booths designed specifically for one person to eat in peace. Movie theaters have single seats that don't make you feel awkward or like something's wrong with you for coming alone. They have entire cultural practices built around the idea that sometimes you just need to exist peacefully with yourself, and there's nothing sad or strange about that. They even have solo karaoke booths, small soundproof rooms where one person can go sing alone without feeling judged. Think about that for a moment. They've made singing alone in a private booth a completely normal and accepted social activity. It's seen as a legitimate form of entertainment and self-expression, not something weird or lonely. Meanwhile, in Western countries, we're still asking people, why are you eating alone, as if it's something strange or sad that needs to be explained. As if eating alone is some kind of confession at a support group. The difference in perspectives is remarkable and shows how much culture shapes our views on solitude. What does all this mean for you personally? If you're someone who genuinely loves being alone, here's your official permission. You're not weird. You're not broken or damaged. Your brain is simply wired to find restoration, peace, and energy in solitude. And that's not just okay. It's actually valuable and important. The world needs people who can sit comfortably with themselves. People who can think deeply without needing constant noise and stimulation. People who understand the difference between genuine connection and unhealthy codependency. In our current age of constant connectivity, where everyone is expected to respond to messages immediately and always be available, the ability to genuinely enjoy your own company might be the most rebellious and countercultural thing you can do. It's revolutionary to say, I'm turning off my phone, I'm spending time with myself, and I'm not available right now. But I want to remind you one more time. Make sure you're not confusing a healthy preference with self-protection. Check in with yourself honestly and ask these questions. Can you connect with people when you genuinely want to? Do you have people in your life that you trust? Are you running towards solitude because it helps you? Or are you running away from connection because it scares you? The healthiest relationship with being alone is one where it's truly a choice, not a defense mechanism or a wall you've built to protect yourself from getting hurt. The next time someone asks you why you're always alone, or why you canceled plans, or why you'd rather stay home with a book than go to that party, you have options. You could tell them about dopamine sensitivity, about how your prefrontal cortex works differently, about the Japanese concept of hitori, about Einstein and Maya Angelou and other brilliant minds, and about the entire body of research showing that solitude isn't social failure. It's often a sign of social intelligence and self-awareness. Or you can simply smile and say, because I like myself and I enjoy my own company. That simple statement usually ends the conversation pretty quickly. And honestly, that confidence and self-acceptance is the whole point. Understanding yourself, accepting who you are, and living authentically according to what makes you feel fulfilled and happy, that's what truly matters in the end.